I think I got them worked out. Hey there, my name's Vormithrax, and we're going to play some Warhammer 40k Gladius, Relics of War. Brand new game, just coming out in a couple of days. I'm recording this 2 days before its release, so it's the 10th today, and releases officially on July 12th. I'm really looking forward to this game. It's from Proxy Studios, published through Slitherine Matrix, and I love a lot of the Slitherine products and war games in general. I've been a big fan of the Warhammer universe for 30 or so years now. I first got exposed to it through Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay back in the mid-80s, 1987 or so, I think. And I followed it through their tabletop wargaming, 40k, just tons and tons of their content, their books, and so on. So I'm a big fan of the Warhammer universe, and I've been hoping and looking for something more in lines of what this is trying to do. It's going to kind of meld the 4X game style, the Civ-style game style, with the traditional Warhammer 40k combat and tactics. So we'll see just how well they do it. And so far, I've only played a very small amount of the game. I just loaded it up and played enough of the introduction scenario, which is the easiest settings, to get a bit of a handle on the interface. And I quit out, and here we are. So it's pretty much brand new to me too, and we're going to see just how well it plays over the next 8 hours. Alright, so let's take a look. Let me know in chat, by the way, if music's too loud. It's hard for me to tell. It's the first time I've played this one on stream. It seems a little loud to me, so I'm going to bump it down a little more. We'll go with 10% for now. Okay. Alright, so like I said, Proxy Studios through Slitherine Matrix, so look for it here in a couple of days. $36 I think is going to be the release price, and hopefully it's worth it. So let's get a game started. We'll go new game. I am going to play Space Marines, and we've got a few choices. You can play the Astra Militarum, that would be the Imperial Guard. You can play the Necrons, or the Orcs, or the Space Marines. And we're going to go Space Marines. That's what was in the tutorial thing, and that's the only one I'm even remotely familiar with. Plus, I think it'll have less units running around. So, Space Marines have Tactical Strikes, Initial Challenge Easy, Fortress City. A single city deployed from orbit. Requisitions, food and ore resources are replaced by a single soil-independent requisitions resource. Fortresses of Redemption. These are kind of remote resource gathering fortifications, so I can drop those down to gather resources from specialized resource nodes. Battle barge operations, I haven't seen those. Deploy tactical operations such as scans and bombardments anywhere on the battlefield. And then chapter tactics, they can issue tactics to boost specific units. And there's a whole bunch of flavor. I really, really like the interface and the color schemes, and you'll see what I mean when we get in-game. It's really, really well put together, and I'm liking what I've seen so far. So there's some flavor detail. I'm not going to read every single piece of flavor text in the game. You can pause and take a look on the playback. But we're going to go Space Marines. And let's see. We're going to say medium difficulty is fine. I'm going to do large world with 6 AI. That's the standard based on what size we pick. So it adjusts the size or the number of AI recommended based on the world size you pick. So I want just a little bit of time, I hope, to... actually, let's kick one of these out. Let's do 4. So me and 4 on a large. That'll give me a little bit of time to figure out the interface and expand before we start going straight to heavy-duty warfare, hopefully. You can do teams, so you can designate teams, and you can do combinations of people and AI. I'm not sure of what the options are for multiplayer. I'll look into that in a future episode. Alright, so what else we got? World size. I'm going to leave everything else the same. Game pace is fine. You can adjust the game pace, which I believe just adjusts the amount of turns for discoveries and production and so on. So you can have a fast game versus a slow game, depending on your preferences. That's all good that that's in there. There are other options you can choose from other than the basic. If we go to the Advanced tab, we can see a whole bunch of other specific ones. There's even world seeds, so if you've got one you like or you want to retry it or have somebody else try it, feel free to copy the world seed and share it around. That's always welcome to see in games of this type. And I guess there's going to be DLC of some kind. I don't know anything about this, and it's not installed or working currently. But I think this will do for our very first game. I'm going to go with medium difficulty. I don't like to go easy or trivial when I learn games. Just not my cup of tea. I pick up bad habits when I do that, so I stopped doing it many, many years ago. I just play on the normal medium difficulty generally to learn a game, and then I increase the difficulty as I get more experienced at it. I think that's it. We're not going to add anybody. Random is fine. I don't know who I'm going to be facing on this game world. Let's start and see what we get.
Gladius Prime was a bastion of humanity, newly colonized. A suitable base for our chapter to rebuild and recruit. We Space Marines raised our fortress here, grew strong again. But the Orc invasion brought a warp storm that cut off our Emperor's light. And the dread Necrons crawled from the earth beneath our feet. War was on all sides, yet we are the Emperor's chosen. We do not dread the dark, or quail at the relics of old. Terror is for those who oppose us. We know no fear.
Okay, there we go. And we are in. Oh, this is an inhospitable looking land. Alright, so my ability to explain the game, the interface, the functions and features is going to be pretty light initially. Like I said, I've barely touched the game, so this is going to be a learning experience for me as well as you guys. So bear with me while I kind of hunt and peck my way around the interface and get new things figured out. I've got a little bit of it figured, so hopefully I can give enough of an explanation or detail to keep everybody entertained and informed as we work our way through this first game. Alright, so as most games of its type, we've got resources up in the top left. We've got our requisition points, our energy, our research, and our influence. All of these are going to be important when we get our city set up. That's the very first task. Like most Civ-style games, we're going to establish our home city. And for Space Marines, we only get one. The other racial types or factions have different methods of their own. They're all unique in that way, so I like that. It's going to provide more playability and more variability in the playthrough to have those kinds of options, and hopefully more tactics when we actually get into things. A dexity or game link similar to Civ? Couldn't tell you. I doubt it, because this doesn't have the raw depth and breadth of a full Civilization game. It's kind of a melding of some 4X interface styles for production purposes and to provide some kind of a progression to the research and development of units, but it's not a full-on Civ deep type of gameplay. There is no diplomacy that I'm aware of. There's no espionage. I'm not even sure you can talk to the other side. In Warhammer, there is only war. They don't call it Diplomacy Hammer, so we'll see. Like I said, I've only played a very, very small part of the intro tutorial part, so there may be stuff later on that we can do. We'll find out as we go through. That's a big part of what this first 8-hour play session is going to be, is figuring out just what the game does offer and what we can do. Alright, so, like I was saying, we got resources up top. It's turn 1. That would be me, Vormithrax. We've got our research screen, our quest screen, and our compendium. Compendium's got lots of stuff in it. We'll visit this as we need to. This is a quick message highlight thing, so you can dismiss or zoom to these locations. We've got order units as a command. There are 2 units available to me. Skip them, go to the mini-map. We can move the mini-map around. We can zoom in pretty good level. So there's our 2 units of Space Marines. And that's as far out as we can go. I don't think it rotates. I haven't found any keys to rotate the map or the interface. So none of the documentation I could find showed hotkey list or anything. and there's no way to do it through the menu, which bothers me a bit. So there's nothing in here about anything regarding keyboard commands or hotkeys or mouse or anything. You've got these options in general, and that's it. So unless they're hiding it somewhere or it's buried in a text file, I'm not sure. We'll just get along as we can. So that's the interface. So if we click on a unit, we get a very nice little overlay. This shows the range of movement he has available to him with his movement and action points. We got a nice detailed listing down here. As I was mentioned, I really like the interface. It's really, really well done, crisp, and has a nice visual style to it. The groundwork and the interface, or the units, tend to feel or look a little muddied to me, but that's probably partially due to this being a weird world. You can see all these little funguses and things. Combined with the visual style, it just feels a little cluttered, but I'm sure as I get used to the game that will change and things will pop out at my eyes a little easier as I get used to it. So we've got our little unit interface down here. You can just point at things and get complete hot tip details, which is great. Always appreciate that kind of information. So if I want to know what influence does, use to acquire and maintain city tiles, invoke tactics and operations, as well as recruit powerful hero units and purchase their items. And it shows you where the numbers come from. So very similar feeling to the Paradox, Europa, Universalis, and Crusader Kings type of interface, where you can point and get complete breakdowns. So right there you can see requisitions are used to sustain the population in the city, construct buildings, as well as produce and maintain units. And then it shows you exactly where those numbers are coming from. So I've got 75 stockpiled. I'm losing 4 per turn from supporting my 2 units that are in the field. So love that kind of detail. I like knowing where things are and how they work, especially in a big number crunching game like this. So it's good to know what's going on. So you can check out all the stats. We've got armor, hit points, morale, actions, movement, their current character level. We're using a bolt gun, and there are 5 members of the squad, so it says bolt gun times 5. So as they take damage, you lose members, and that the damage and such will go down. They'll decrease in effectiveness as they take damage, which is good to see as well. So all the information's there, what their special abilities are, all the flavor from the Warhammer world. Love it. And then you've got the specific actions. Disband. Overwatch mode is pretty much always on as long as he has any action or movement points available, I believe. Hold position until fully healed, and then skip this turn. So let's take a look around the map real quick. That's the unit interface. Once we get our city down, we'll be able to see our city interface. But that's the interface for the most part. And I'm not going to go into these screens quite yet. Let's look at this. So feature discovered, Shard of Vol. If we click on it, it will give us the compendium information on it, which is great. Shard of Vol, special feature that increases the ore or requisitions and energy output of the city when acquired. Before the warp storm, when man ruled the planet, these great outcrops were a curiosity and an attraction, like Kadia's pylons, yet whilst the warp storm rages overhead, they tremble with an unkind power that foolhardy races may seek to tap. So, doesn't take any building slots, it provides these benefits, and I think you only get the +1 if you do not have it within the borders of a city-controlled area. So if I drop an outpost on it, or next to it, for example, I'll get the +1 requisition, +1 energy, +1 ore, but I won't get these percentage bonuses. You get those if you actually have that special location within the border of a city. The other thing it did when I clicked on this is it zoomed the screen to center on that. So if I zoom in here, that's the Shard of Vol, and an outpost can be placed there. But if I click on the Necron Tomb, it zooms the screen over to it so you know where it's at, and then you get the details on the Necron Tomb. And this is kind of cool for the Necrons, feature that allows Necrons to found a city. Necrons can found multiple cities, but only on these Necron Tomb tiles. So they don't really get to pick where they get to build cities. They get multiples, but they have to take whatever the tomb locations are. And that's it right there, Necron Tomb. What else we got? The region is the Pyrigan. We've discovered Wireweed. This is a terrain feature that ends the movement of a unit and deals damage each turn. So it's like barbed wire, basically, Wireweed. And also a Grox Pasture. This is a food or requisition bonus, basically. Special feature that increases the food or requisition amounts output of the city when acquired. So, is there any chance I can... I'm probably going to just found my city. What I'm looking at is the notes below the pointer. Volcanic, orcoid fungus, rocks, volcanic, but also the number with the little hex symbol that's divided into 3 pieces that says 2 on that space and 3 on that space, or that space. That's how many buildings you can put on a space. So you'll see what I mean here when we get our main city put up. So let's pick these guys, and up here we have the option to deploy city. It says that would be the best place for some reason. I can't see the terrain around it currently. Let's cancel that action. Let's take you guys. I'm going to tell them to move here. So, Wireweed with Imperial Ruins. So I can't build anything in this space. I'm not sure why it likes this space. I don't know the rules or reasoning behind its preference. Maybe it's because of the near proximity of the forest? That seems bad. The Wireweed means I can't build anything there. I would like to build here in the middle so I can get relatively soon I'll be able to get the Shard of Vol within the city region as well as the volcanic or the Grox Pasture. Can I even build? Yeah, it says I can build on the Necron Tomb space. That'd be entertaining. Tempted to build right where he's at. There's 2 spaces in every direction. I wouldn't be able to use that. I'm not sure how far out you can actually expand realistically within a game, so I don't know long-term strategy-wise what would be a good choice here. But I'm just going to do turn 1, drop a city. It's always a good idea in Civ games to drop the city as quickly as possible. So where I'm at, Volcanic, River, Rocks, only 2 spaces. 2, 3... I kind of wish there was a hotkey I could press to show me all of this info at one time, but if there is one, I don't know what it is. That way I could see it all at once without having to wave my cursor around, and I could compare. Plus 30% requisitions because of the Imperial Ruins, probably. Hey there, Nix. Yeah, another 30% requisitions. I think I'm going to put it right here. That gives me a good amount of growth in each direction. I've got access to the plains. We've got a couple of Imperial Ruins I'll be able to get to. The Grox Pasture. I'll have to expand out a couple of times to get the Shard of Vol in my area. But I think right here, we've got a requisition bonus. We can build 3 buildings. So, let's deploy city. Well there at least it's showing me the numbers. Okay, so I guess that works. And then it's showing me the numbers immediately around the area as well. So you can see there, when I put this next to the Shard of Vol, we've got the percentage bonuses added in. So we'll get 1 requisition, 1 energy if we build an outpost next to it, but if we get the city expanded over to it, then we'll get that as well. Do I get that now, or is that showing me... I think that's showing me future numbers. Because I have to actually buy the land around it to be able to build on it. Now it's saying these 2 spaces. Alright, be that way, game. I see how you're going to be. Nah, I'm going to stick with my earlier thought. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. Alright, there we go, Castellum Capitalis. So that is our capital city. nice and zoomed in. That is actually the fortress in the central space. I can't move into that space. It's basically like a huge fortified building. You can see down here, Castellum Capitalis headquarters unit that represents a city's defenses. Every fortress monastery contains myriad halls large enough to house several armies, but most have too great a hall, centerpiece of a chapter's home. Trophies, relics, and even its most revered spacecraft may be housed within the Great Hall. If the sight of the Great Hall does not reduce a visitor to dumbfounded silence, then it has failed in its purpose. So, this thing has its own set of stats. It's like a static tank, basically. So it's got armor, it's got health, it's got morale, and it can fire. It's got 5 bolt guns and a las cannon. So it is big, and it will defend the city that we're going to grow around it. We're going to purchase the tiles around it, and as we grow, we'll be able to build buildings within those tiles. But that itself, I can't move into. It's its own unit. It counts as, and that's what they have to take out in order to take over the city. Oh, it is a fortress. So it's a fortress for sure, not maybe. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it acts like a unit. I can't move into that space where I can't move into other parts of the city spaces, and it will defend itself. If any enemy units come near, I can fight from it. So, alright, so we've got our city down. If we click on it, we can get into the details here. So now we've got our city. Now the Space Marines only get this one city. So this is the only city I'm going to have. And we're also very, very tough, high-end units, but I don't have a lot of them. So that's our advantage, is just the quality of our units and their power. But I don't have a lot, so I could get swarmed over by some of the other factions. So we'll see how things work out. Okay, so population's 1 out of 6. Growth, we're going to have a city growth in 4 turns, or our population's going to grow in 4 turns. You have to have population available to work in the buildings that you put up. So there's a big balancing act between your growth, your population, their loyalty, and various things. So it's going to be interesting figuring out the balancing and the juggling that's going to be necessary for that. Okay, what else we got? There's our requisitions information. Used to sustain the population in the city, construct buildings, as well as produce and maintain units. And we can see where all the numbers are going. So we're up to 14.8 per turn, 12 from the buildings, 2.4 from features, 1.4 from the loyalty bonus, and -1 to support the population that we've got, 1 unit. Energy, research, influence, we'll get into all this here in just a bit, but now that this building is down, it contains an orbital relay and the Great Hall. And that's what these are, the Great Hall and the orbital relay. So you can see these two little icons right here. The Great Hall is the headquarters building that generates resources and is the fortress. And then the orbital relay building that constructs new buildings and generates influence. So it attributes are 6 production points and 6 influence points. And it has a cost and upkeep and so on. Okay. Go ahead and zoom in here. So we got some things we need to get done. Each building can have one thing being done at a time. So as I expand the city and generate and build other buildings, I can have half a dozen things building at once. It's just only one per building area can be built. My understanding is if you build multiple buildings of the same type, it doesn't allow you to do multiple separate production runs. It basically doubles the speed of the one run. So we'll see how that comes into play as we expand. But what can we do? So we can acquire a new tile. So acquires a new tile for the city. Buildings can only be built on acquired tiles, and each tile has an influence upkeep. So again, we have to balance things. We don't want to expand too quickly. Expanding before we have the population to actually work the land and such is a waste. So we'll see what we can manage. We can clear a tile. Clears tile of forest, imperial ruins, or wireweed. Oh, okay. So we can clear that wireweed out of there if we eventually need to. We can construct a refectory, building that generates requisition points. Chapter's mammoth dining halls and kitchens are contained within its refectories. The Space Marine diet is a Spartan affair, augmented with a cocktail of biochemical supplements to ensure constant battle readiness. The Battle Brothers consume this repast in complete silence. Then there's the Generatorum. That is going to build or generate energy. The Librarium generates research points. The Assimilarum, that generates influence points. So the basic resources, we've got requisition, energy, research, and influence. And then finally the Apothecarion, building that produces infantry as well as generates research and increases loyalty. The Apothecarium provides medical support for wounded Battle Brothers and plays a vital role in the elevation of an aspirant to the Space Marine. Both these functions pale into insignificance against the Apothecarion's other purpose, the preservation of its chapter's unique gene seed, from which new Space Marines are created. If the gene seed is lost, so too is the chapter. Alright, so I want to construct an Apothecarion, so if we select that, I only have one building tile or space, and I've got one position left in it, so we'll go ahead and pick that. It's going to take 6 turns, so it requires 36 production points, so I'm currently producing 6 per turn. 6 per turn? Yeah, 6.6 per turn, so it's going to take 6 turns basically to build that. Hey there, Biggie. Welcome. Alright, so that's how all that works. So it shows me here 6 turns, the Apothecarium is being constructed. So it's going to be a while before we're going to get any units out, so I want to make sure I don't lose these guys. Okay. This fortress is basically immune to early rush attacks. It's going to take a concerted effort by some fairly mid to high level units, I believe, in order to take this out. So I can leave this fairly unguarded, I think. Now there are, other than the specific factions that we set up as opponents on this map, there are, I believe, NPC or neutral units that we're going to end up fighting as well. Holdovers and such, and mutations and all that good stuff. So we'll kind of see how things work out. Alright, anything else we can afford to do? So acquire the tile. We've got 25 currently. Going to cost... No, I can't do anything else because I'm already building the Apothecarion. So, alright, so we're done with the city. What are we going to do with our units? These guys already moved, so they've got 0 out of 3 movement points left. Let's go ahead and search out. If we go here, it'll build an outpost on that space, and we'll get the partial bonus. I'm assuming if I then acquire that tile later, I'll get the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. So let's go there. And that basically takes ownership of that specialty resource on the map, puts my color around it, and puts these little bunker holdouts there. So we've now gained the benefit from that, so we're gaining +1 requisition and +1 energy.